January was cold, but housing was hot. Starts rising to their highest level in 6 months, according to the Commerce Department, up 2.8% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 591,000. But if realtors are getting cocky, the nation's #1 realtor here to say don't. Dolly Lenz just ain't buying it. Because I love her name, that's reason for me to say, good golly, Dolly, why not so jolly? Good golly, Dolly, why not? You didn't like that. All right, so I worked on that all day. Yeah. So you're not gangbusters big on this?
No, because there's no depth. Until there's real depth in the market, meaning lots of purchasers, really gun-ho to buy something, really beating somebody else out to get it, then you can't say the market's good. Just because there's a trickle of sales, and God, in comparison to no sales, hey, wow,
right,
gangbusters.
You're not banging your head against the wall.
Exactly.
So what do you see happening?
You know, I see a trickle of sales. I see people stepping up to the plate. I do see a little more confidence. And I see people saying, you know what, I stood on the sidelines long enough, I want a home.
Yeah.
But
they're going to...
Doesn't a whole story tell?
Well, because then even if they want a home, they got to deal with the appraiser who says that home...
is worth half what you think it is.
A lot less than you think. And then it compounds this downward price pressure.
Right, and that plus the banks, plus everything else is
so they're still being stingy?
Yes. Oh, very stingy.
You still have to go through hoops to get a loan?
Yes, definitely.
So your clients now versus before this whole housing crisis, how much are they putting down?
Oh, at least 50%.
50%?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And beforehand, what were they doing? Like
I mean, some
$5,
10%, right? Some 10%, really? Yeah.
So those days are gone?
Well, they're gone for now, for sure.
You know, I know you, I was joking during the break, I know you're the expert on this, but as you know, Dolly, I play one on TV. I think the next big phenomenon are these short sales, where they're deliberately pushing down the price to get out of a house at a substantial discount, and the banks are okay with it, and everyone, you know, wipes their hands, and
that kills appraisals.
And it kills appraisals a little more.
Right. Exactly, kills appraisals, so it keeps pushing.
But it's not quite, you know, a foreclosure. It's one step above it.
Exactly.
But it's still bad, right?
It precludes a foreclosure, but it is a foreclosure.
And it has the same effect. It sends prices down.
Exactly. And you know, that plus the shadow inventory, you know, that is on, plus the inventory coming on if the banks ever decide to really do something, which so far they're just kicking the can down the hall. You know, hopefully.
So what do we got to do?
Well, I think the banks should probably say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to take this loss. I'm going to move on. I can invest my money better here by doing this here. And then the inventory will go on the market. It will be sold. And finally, everything will come back.
Yeah, but the inventory that goes in the market will be a lot more inventory and a lot cheaper inventory. So that would involve sales declines of what? Or price?
It'll involve price declines in some markets, because everything is very market specific.
Right.
But where it does, at least nobody's waiting for it. You know, that shadow of waiting for it is worse than what the actuality would be.
But I don't think people would comprehend the actuality. Like, remember in the late 80s, after the 87 stock market crash, we had the housing bust and you were a child. Oh. But that I remember because everyone said, well, I'm going to wait till this thing bottoms out.
Yes.
And before you know it, was just a year later, and we were booming again. Well, not booming, but, you had missed a key opportunity. And I've talked to very smart housing folks who are 180 degrees from you saying, this is that time. You don't buy it.
No, not at all.
What do you have to see?
Other than certain markets. I mean,
you have to see capitulation.
Right. I have to see people in droves agreeing, this is where we are, I'm buying this, you're buying that, he's buying the other, and everyone agreeing to buy, the credit loosening. You know, you need to see a whole critical mass of things happening, which we haven't yet seen. We're seeing a trickle of it, but we haven't seen it yet.
Do you know what I think changes it? If people feel good about their future, financial future. Then they're willing to roll the dice and buy a home, or just like we're seeing a little bit of that in the malls. People are going out to the malls a little bit more. So the next step up is getting a house. What do you think?
Nintendo, a house?
Okay,
maybe
that's kind of sweet. That's why I said I'm not an expert. But can you see the sentiment changing? In other words, the unemployment rate keeps going down. We get more good data, like retail sales and the GDP report. I know that gets a little esoteric for most folks, but when they hear that more good news is coming out, it makes them feel better.
No question. But don't forget, there's also a lot of people in that sandwich group where, yes, they feel better, but they haven't sold their home yet, so they can't buy another home.
Right, they're lost.
So there's all kinds of things going on. Everyone has a story, and that's why people aren't moving on. You know, they have to liquidate something in order to move on to the next. And they want to. They can.
Wow. Dolly Lenz, always good seeing you.
Thank
you.
you.
Anytime I can offer you housing advice, you know, please, you know where to go. She's the best. She's the best.
Thank you for having me.